priorities, and we should probably try to establish whether some of these are priorities that supersede other priorities that we have. Any other comments or questions?
Well,
I think it was a good exercise. I'm glad you did it.
you know, I don't know. I'd like these numbers. I'd like these numbers to get out into the public, and I'd also like this report to get to the public, into the public's hands, because if you forget about the study halls for a minute and you go into the technology staffing, where in 2005 we had 4 technology people, 2 technicians and 2 integration specialists, and we had 363 computers. And this year that's gone from 4 to 2, and we now have twice as many computers. I'm not a math whiz, but that doesn't work out. There's no answer to that problem there.
But I mean, if you look at this under normal conditions, all of these initiatives, the first year cost is $228,000. The second year it's $146,000. The third year it's $90,000. That's not an outrageous request.
Those are modest numbers.
They are.
None of this is outrageous.
No.
This is exactly what we should be paying for, or we just can't.
And this is what I can't.
Anybody have any comments regarding the priorities themselves? If there's anything else that should have been included in there?
About the science material. Can the PTA pay for the science material?
Well, actually, we're taking a look at our current budgets to see just exactly what might we be able to purchase currently. If there's a particular area where we haven't expended those funds in textbooks or materials. So we're trying to be as creative as we can to be able to support this science initiative going forward.
Yeah, I mean, personally, my priorities would be fund the science program first, honestly. And then secondly, would be to buy as much technology as possible to introduce to the school system. And then when you do that, you need to increase your technology staff if we are to keep up with the 21st century.
Well, look, what we have here is some ideas and some priorities that we need to incorporate into our budget discussion when the budget's proposed.
But I think if we get that new fund to focus on some of that, and some of the PTA to focus on that, they can take care of a couple of these priorities
Well,
for us.
I
while
think
we look at just the staffing.
I agree, and I think technology is an easy area to fall into the education foundation.
This is 1/10 of 1% of our budget.
Yep.
A 1/10 of 1%.
Yeah, just go ahead. I'm sorry,
I
Ken.
have a question. As far as the budget presentation next week, you've asked us to communicate the level services budget. Would the committee prefer that we keep this budget vision separate from the preliminary budget that's being presented?
That would be my preference. I don't know about anybody else, but certainly that'd be my preference. Yeah.
Why?
Huh?
Let them cut it out. I want people to actually.
No one's going to cut it out. We are the ones that have to cut it.
No.
No, but we need to present it, have the Board of Selectmen, have representatives from the town that have kids in school to come in and say, science is not important, technology is not important, or we can't afford it. And then they can go back and figure out how we can afford this someday. But to just never add any of this information. It's
No,
like
but all I'm saying, Mike, no, all I'm saying is I want to see what the level services budget looks like. And then we know what these costs are, and we can try to incorporate it. But I just wanted to see what it looks like.
I just think, like, we can't ignore this stuff and say, well, none of this exists and we can't really do anything.
No, and I guess the problem is this town is being really fair to education. They allocate 67% of the town budget, and that's a pretty good amount.
Well, all of our priorities may change a little bit when we see the level services budget, because I'm guessing it's going to be at least $1 million in the red. And if that's the case, we have a lot tougher decisions to make about that than just incorporating some of these recommendations into that budget.
It's $1 million in the red based on
Revenue
preliminary
projections.
revenue projections,
That's right.
which in my 7 years on the board have always been the most conservative projections we've ever seen.
I don't disagree with that, but I think that
We won't get $1 million though. I can tell you that much.
I think it's probably going to be more than
If it's $1
million.
million in the red now, it's going to still be pretty big in the
Right.
red by the time.
So let's get a look at that based on current. We have a meeting tomorrow of the financial planning team, actually, tomorrow at 4 o'clock. And we'll get an update on the revenue projections. I'm not sure it's going to be much different than the last meeting, to be honest with you. But
Don't know anymore.
Well, other than I mean, the only unknowns really will be the, what real estate assessment, what the assessments come in, right, for next year.
That's not a big unknown, though.
We're not gonna get much
You can measure that pretty,
I think the state, we're pretty clear, we're maxed out what we're gonna get, we're not
Yeah.
gonna get more.
so.
Let it come.
So again, I think these are things, when we have the budget discussion, we need to include these types of priorities. We know what the administration's priorities are.
Yep.
Mike prioritized his out of this group of priorities, and I think we all need to do the same thing and discuss this when we discuss the budget.
I'm just curious, do we have an indication what the town, has the town said what their shortfall would be on the town side in the finance planning?
They've indicated right now what, how much they can increase the school budget by.
No, I'm talking about after they increase the allocation to the town side for next year, have they indicated what kind of
No.
shortfall they might have?
No.
Well, I don't think they have, but we can
No.
certainly find that out tomorrow. I mean, am I wrong? I think that the allocation, at least based on revenue projections, for the school department would be $43,000 more than it was last year, which falls way, way, way short of level services, so.
Yeah, I would say.
The town administrator, I don't believe has shared the budget yet with the Board of Selectmen, so I don't think that they know what that.
Oh, and they have that meeting actually in March where all the
Department heads
department heads come in on
Yeah.
a Saturday. I think it's March 3rd,
Yep,
maybe.
They've been doing that
March
for
10th,
for
something like that.
years. Yeah.
So they'll have a better idea then. Okay.
Okay, Kath, thank you. That was well worth it.
It's great and sad at the same
Um,
time.
Routine matters, I'm almost afraid to ask, but have we signed the bills and payroll?
I
Yes.
refuse.
They're done.
Are they signed?
Yes,
All right.
they're done.
We have minutes. January 9th, 2012, executive session minutes. Anybody have a motion?
I move to approve executive session minutes for January 9th, 2012.
Motion by Mel.
I'm not seconding. I wasn't here for most of it.
I abstain.
Michael has second.
We have a second by Mike. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all's in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, what do we have? One abstention
Abstain.
and two abstentions. So we have 3 in favor, 2 abstaining, Karen and Cliff abstaining. We have January 9th, 2012, the open session minutes.
Move to approve January 9th, 2012, open session minutes as written.
Okay, we have a motion by Mel, second by Cliff. Hearing any further discussion? Hearing none, all's in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Motion carries by a vote of 5-0. We have the January 23rd, 2012, open session minutes. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion from Mel.
I wasn't here, so I can't.
I'll second.
Second by Cliff. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all's in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None?
Abstention.
1 abstention, so it's 4 in favor and Karen's abstaining. Okay, budget update. Ask the Director of Finance and Operations, who caused an entire series of policy changes with that title, to please report on the FY budget update.
Is there a motion to table this?
I'm voting against whatever you recommend, Carl.
I didn't move the table, Carl, I just tabled it. Go ahead.
Well, fortunately, there are no controversies associated with this January report.
We'll decide that.
I did point out in the cover letter a fact that I think has been discussed in several forums, that being that we do project deficit in the athletic revolving line, which has to be made up by the general fund. Otherwise, we would put the revolving fund in the red based on the present spending patterns. So, therefore, we have taken action in this budget to encumber and reserve the sum of $20,000 to cover that intended deficit. So I did point that out, and that will come from the expense line. And also, the other point here is working closely with the superintendent. We are reviewing all expenditures at this stage with even a finer tooth comb, because as much as we do want to allow some enhancements and non-discretionary purchases, we're also increasingly aware of next year's budget, and we're starting to fashion some strategies, again, sounds like a broken record, but to perhaps use some of this year's unspent monies to help us next year. So that's an activity that's ongoing on a daily basis. Go ahead.
Any questions for Mr. Nelson? Thank you, Cal. Bids and donations, we do have a donation. I'd ask the superintendent to tell us what that is.
Yes, we have a donation that was made through Mr. Michael Larkin by Peter and Doreen Christie, and they have donated an iPad 2 to the North Reading Public School District to be used by students with autism. And Mr. Larkin, this is not the first time that he's made this kind of a donation. He has already donated 2 other iPads to the special education program. So we're very appreciative of these donations that are coming forward to us.
In addition to these donations, Mr. Larkin's been doing this for a while. He's gone back and made a couple of other donations to the school department. He doesn't even live in North Reading anymore. He lives in Peabody, and he continues to do this, and greatly appreciated. So I'd look for a motion to accept with gratitude the donation made by Mr. Larkin.
So moved.
Motion by Cliff, second by Karen. Any further discussion? Again, a thank you to Mr. Larkin. I know his family, and they've been doing this for a long time. So, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries by a vote of 5-0. Subcommittee updates. I'm afraid to ask, but the policy subcommittee met on January 24th, and I'm going to ask Cliff to give us an update on that.
I think we saw it tonight, didn't we?
Well, we've been through most of what we discussed,
Yeah.
the concussion policy, the payment